Well, hello everyone and welcome back to Adrian's Digital Basement 2. We're going to be looking at this little Sony Watchman today. This little set is the FD-10A Sony Watchman and it's from December 1991. So it's a little bit later in the game for Watchmans, definitely not the first model ever made, but it's a Watchman that I have that actually works. Well, mostly works. Now the battery cover does go on, but I don't have it on because I have these nickel metal hydrides in here. And you know, nickel metal hydrides are slightly larger than normal AA's. And sometimes I don't think the cover will go back on with those on there. And that's kind of annoying, to be honest. I'm gonna rant a little bit about that. Have nickel metal hydrides always been larger, or NiCads, were they always larger than regular AA's? Because back in the day, if you had a TV like this, you would certainly want to use some kind of rechargeable battery because obviously being an actual CRT, it drains the battery quite fast. Now, the Sony Watchman line of little CRTs, or portable CRTs here, as you can see, it says Watchman right on it. This is an actual CRT in there. And I've featured a flat CRT on the channel before, but the electron gun and the deflection yoke is over here, and it shoots electron beams up this way. And you can see the phosphor there on the CRT, and you're actually looking through the electron beam as it comes up and hits the phosphor. So there's obviously some circuitry in all of these sets that handles this sort of geometric distortion that you're dealing with there, because the deflection, it's going left to right, but up and down is only just a little bit because of that slanted phosphor screen, so to speak, there. One of the other problems is this set's off, obviously, but you can see that any kind of ambient light definitely lights up that phosphor pretty brightly. A lot of CRTs, well, especially the later ones, they actually use a tinted front glass on them just to create a little bit of a, I don't know, a darkening, so to speak, for the phosphor. And that's why some later CRTs really have a dark appearance to them. I don't think that's the actual phosphor. I think that's the tinting in the glass. And this obviously doesn't have any. Now, they're trying to maximize brightness on here by allowing as much light through when the phosphor glows, you know, to your eyes. But, you know, you have the problem of it just being pretty washed out from the ambient light. So if you're going to try to use this outside, I think they sold these little attachments, like hood attachments for it, that would try to shield it from the direct sunlight or whatever. Before I talk about what's wrong with this, let's just briefly take a look at the controls. On the back here, we have a UHF VHF band switch. On the side of the set, we have the power switch here, which is off, sound only, and then TV. That turns on the picture tube. You have a volume control and tuning. Now, I think this has a headphone jack. There it is, earphone jack. So if you wanted to use this without the picture tube on to prolong your battery life, you would set it to sound only, and then there you go. Now, of course, it has a little antenna as well, telescoping. Some of the other models had like a little clip thing here that you could tilt the TV up. Of course, I just use the antenna for that, like so, at least when I have it on display. Now, I don't normally, of course, use this. It's just typically on display, and I don't keep batteries in it, of course, but I would like it to at least work. So let's turn this on. First, I'll turn the volume all the way down. Let's turn this on, and let's take a look at what the problem is. All right, so this thing has two issues. Now, it's not really doing one of them because it seems to happen if it's turned off for a long time, and I was using this earlier. The deflection on the bottom wraps around. And you see that brighter strip at the bottom? Boy, it's hard to see with all the light in here, but it's a little bit brighter at the bottom, and that's because the image is wrapping around. The other problem, let me set this to UHF. The other problem is that the band switch on the back is very scratchy, which means it's very difficult for me to tune in anything. There we go, though. So there's bristles like poked in underneath what is exposed. I mean, my concern is that whatever corrosion is there is actually happening underneath where I can see. All right, so there is one of my videos. Boy, it's not really in focus, is it? I'm sorry about that. This is going to be tricky to get into focus. But that is one of my videos right there. And yes, it is being transmitted to this TV. I have a little TV transmitter set up. It's very low power. It's on one of the UHF channels. And it allows me to send my own videos into it for future testing. And of course, as I test more little TVs and stuff in the future, I will be showing that. And actually, so what is doing the transmitting is one of these. This is a blonder tongue RF modulator. It takes video audio input and it outputs an RF signal. And these were originally designed for cable TV analog head ends. So you would have like a whole rack of these. They would be installed like this. This is a little thing to pull them out. It has a little LED display here because you actually set what channel you want. There's some level controls and an AV offset there. And yeah, it can actually RF modulate onto any channel, and it's pretty decent. The RF output of this thing is enough that when it's hooked up to a little antenna, actually gives me just a local broadcast here around the house. It's not strong enough to really go that far away from the lab here. I'm sure if I had a better antenna, it would. But yeah, these are pretty decent. I got that off eBay. Obviously, I have two of them because one of them is currently in use, and that is what's broadcasting to this set. Now, this is one of the problems here, is on the back, this switch is extremely touchy. And I'm gonna need to, at the minimum, clean that. But you can see that wrapped around image on the bottom there, and it's much worse actually when this thing has not been used in a while. Like, it wraps around maybe 3/4 of the way down and you sort of see it loop around. So I'm thinking that's gotta be a capacitor, most likely, something like that. It doesn't seem to have anything to do with the batteries. These are fresh batteries. But yeah, I'd like to at least be able to tune into the channel, whatever I'm on, 30 something here. Turn the audio up. Yeah, it's just really, really touchy here. All right, so I think what I'm gonna do, what we need to do is just open this thing up. First, I'm gonna pull these batteries out here. There's a handy little pull cord to get the 4th battery out, since they're kind of deep in there in the well, so to speak, but you just pull that out. Oh, come on, it's really stuck because these batteries are too big. Not only are they larger, like circumference than a normal battery, or the radius is a little bit bigger, right, which makes their circumference bigger. They seem to be a little bit longer as well. So I probably shouldn't ever leave them in here because it probably puts stress on all of this plastic here with these contacts. Anyways, yep, there's a screw down there. There's another screw down there. There's some screws at the top here. So let's take this apart. Now, typically Sony has little arrows that point to the screws you got to remove. There's one on these, and I don't see, oh, come on, these are really tight here. I don't see one of these little arrows on the screws in the battery compartment. I think I should be using a slightly smaller screwdriver on these screws. Yes, that's better. It was scratching the plastic away a little bit there. And this one here, I'm gonna definitely deoxit the controls on this thing. I mean, I'm not sure I can definitely fix the problem with the deflection. I mean, I would imagine that's gonna be a capacitor, but it might be some really tiny little thing. I mean, this is 91, so it's like of the era where there's definitely gonna be surface mount components in here. Although who knows what Sony was doing when it came to modernization. All right, so it's kind of coming apart here. Screws are coming out. I see there's one more screw, and I do see arrows. Arrow there, arrow there. Oh, and an arrow right there. I love you, Sony. You're so great. Oh, look at that. That just popped apart very easily. Okay, so there it is. There's the internals. Who knows if this has ever been accessed or opened before? Probably not. A little piece of tape here holding down a wire. Now let's take a look here. This is interesting. There's a little switch here, S154 and a U and a V. Just looking around here. So there's definitely little arrows pointing to that screw. There's a screw right here. So I'm definitely gonna need to open those to get this board out. Look at that, there's potentiometers there, but there's, look, electrolytic caps right here. There's one there, another one there. So let's take out these screws. Separate the boards. You know, I worry, is the camera in focus here? Is it focusing on this and not on this? Maybe I need to, I'm gonna get something else that doesn't have this pattern in it. All right, how about this? Maybe that's gonna help it focus a little bit better. And I can use these little things up here to hold screws. So these two right there, those are for the PCB, and this was for the back case. Bunch of the screws didn't come out of the back case. I didn't even look on the stickers here. Picture tube type O2-JM. I guess that means it's like, what, 2-inch screen there, I guess? Anyhow, okay, let's keep looking around in here. All right, well there we get a glimpse, we got a glimpse of the CRT O2-JM. So this is the back part where the phosphor is. Here is the deflection yoke right there, there, and there. We have some centering rings right there. there will be a high voltage anode connection somewhere. I think it's right there. You can just see the little bit of the suction cup, the silicone cup there. Oh, I just realized that this right here is the band switch. So the back cover interfaces with that. So that switch is definitely a dirty boy. So I need to figure out how to get this other part of the board out, and the CRT almost certainly. So this little clamp thing here holds on the CRT, but what is holding it down? Don't want to break it. Looks like down here is a buried screw, I assume. Yep. There it is down there. All right, check this out. There's a little like damped wheel here, and that's what turns this on the front here. And of course I just moved it. Not so smart, Adrian. Okay, so I think I'm okay because this only turns to the edges. I can recalibrate that. I shouldn't have turned that. I should have left it alone, but I think I already turned the little tuner control there. I'd have to measure all these caps to see if they're good or not. And of course, I'd have to order them. I mean, who's got, well, probably have a cap like that little tiny one, that's 220 microfarad. But these little low profile ones here, I'm gonna have to order those if any of those are bad. All right, so for getting all this stuff out, there are some screws here. Let's get these out. I'm gonna put that in the middle section here. All right, there is a little board. Wonder what this does. It's got a cap though. I wouldn't be surprised if this is like a focus pot right here, maybe a brightness, because a couple of these traces go over here onto the connector, what would be the neck on the CRT. It's underneath this flex cable here. I'm going to try to get the connector off the back of the CRT here. There we go. I think then I can maybe lift this stuff up. All right, so for high voltage, there's something under here. It's probably like a voltage tripler, quadrupler, uses diodes or something like that, and that's generating the high voltage for this thing. These wires here, oh, you know what, actually? So deflection, just these wires and these wires, they do go to this top board. They don't go to this high voltage stuff here. So that kind of implies that the problem is going to be over here in this section. Yeah, so these two wires here, which I can't tell which is for horizontal, which is for vertical, goes over to this section right here. And the other two wires are the red and the blue, which go over here to this section. I think what I need to do next is grab the capacitor tester and start poking around these caps and a couple of these caps over here. And then let's see what I can figure out. All right, well, I've gone over and I've checked the caps and I can't find any that aren't working. So I think what I'm gonna have to do is, we'll power this thing up as is open like this. And I'm going to, well, probably try to clean this switch here, the one that was giving me trouble before. And the other thing that I can maybe do is heat up some of these caps over here in this section. And typically if a cap's not performing well and you heat it up a little bit, it generally works a bit better and it can help you identify which is the problematic cap. So the first thing we need to do is figure out how to power this thing up because there's no DC input jack on it. So if you notice, when I removed the battery compartment, the back, there were no wires, and that's because it actually makes contact right here and right here on this board. And by looking at the back cover, or where the batteries go, I've determined that this is the positive terminal and that is the negative terminal. But there's something else I need to do before I try to power this up. The CRT needs to be grounded to this circuit board, and notice there's like a metal clip right here, and that pushes right here. This is the equivalent of the DAG, or the DAG ground on a regular CRT. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a piece of wire, strip it, and tape it onto this, and then I'll clip it on to there. All right, so I have this wire here with a bunch stripped, and I'm gonna tape it down here on this lower section. I don't wanna put it up here in case this tape takes away some of that paint. So I'll stick it right over on the side here. And then I'll get a clip lead here, and we'll just clip onto this little metal clip right here. All right, now this stuff is all still unscrewed, right? These things kind of float around. I think that should be not a problem. I'm just getting these two boards back into position. So this one here, as we said, it generates the high voltage. Also seems to be audio circuitry because there's like the speaker connection that goes to it. Plus the headphone jack is right there. And obviously maybe it's a little bit of the power supply, which, you know, maybe that's part of the problem too. Maybe when the battery voltage is a bit lower than this expects, you get that fold over. Although, like I was saying, when I ran this longer, it actually improved. I'm just taking a look at the back cover here. It says DC 6 volt, average of 1.6 watts. Well, if it was running at 1 amp, that would be 6 watts. So this only needs like a couple hundred milliamps. So I have the bench power supply, which are connected to these leads here, set for, what is it set for? It's set for 400 milliamps. Okay, connections are made. So that's the positive, that's the negative. Ground is hooked up to the CRT right here. Let's just push that down, make sure it is. All right, I think we're ready to actually turn this thing on. Now, of course, the antenna is also not connected. That's on the back cover as well, and that is screwed on to something on this board. I think it's right there. That's the RF connection up at the top here. Now, unfortunately, the camera is pointing down, and because the power connections come off the back here, and I need to access this board, it's going to be tough for me to record that this is working. So I guess the first thing is I will turn this on as it is here, and we'll make sure that this thing is even starting up. So this is the power switch here. Oh, we got no power because there's nothing coming out of the power supply. Okay, well, I'm not getting anything. No current draw. All right, try number 2. I don't think my clips were making good contact on these 2 screw terminals. So I've gone ahead and I've soldered on 2 wires right onto the motherboard there, not onto the screw terminals because that put excess solder on those. Okay, so let me hit the power. Okay, it's running at 200 milliamps, so I'm assuming it's on right now. Let's see, how do we tilt this over in a safe way that doesn't endanger me? All right, it is working. And it is rolled over a little bit, but we have a good signal there. So this thing is running. Okay, first off, let's see, I need to get RF into this. So I need to try to use a clip lead. Maybe I can just use a clip lead on the antenna jack, and that will be enough to pick up my transmitter here. So it's right here at the top. What I do not know is this set to UHF or VHF? So UHF is down. Let's see, how does this go on? This way. So UHF is towards my left hand on this board. So it is set to UHF. That's what the U means on there, okay? Of course, we don't have the front display to give us, oh, there it is. There's the signal. So let me turn the volume up. Should have sound. So I'll have to be attacking that in the next video. Okay, so the reason why I wanted to have sound, so I'm going to put this down. I guess I can switch off the high voltage. There, the screen's off. It only draws 55 milliamps now instead of 200. Okay, so this switch right here we know is flaky, right? Yep, it's very flaky. So where's the Deoxit? So I'm just going to get that in there. Well, it just broke. That's not very good. I barely touched it. Okay, well, I might just need to fix this permanently onto UHF. That sucks. Let's see if I can get this thing to be tuned in again. So it's tuning. I think what I need to do, I'm turning off the power. I'm gonna use my multimeter. I'm gonna try to figure out how this is connected together because there's looks like there's three positions, and then I'm just gonna bridge that. I know people are gonna be like, no, you're gonna disable the VHF, but I mean, really? Do we really need RF at all? This is for me to use at home here, and the transmitter I have it set to UHF because that results in the best possible image. I have my little antenna that I am using is most tuned up. Let's see how this works here. I wouldn't be surprised if it's like, probably the center goes to these, no? So it seems like the two outside pins here are shorted and those two pins. Can't believe that just snapped right off just like that. I'm just gonna remove that entire switch. I think it's just gonna cause a problem, and I'll figure out how to best short these together. Looks like these lower two pins on the right, or sorry, the leftmost pins over on the right bank are joined, and the two pins on the outside here on this lower section are. So let's see if we can get this off. Okay, switch is removed. I used hot air there. The desolder wick was not working super good. All right, I've installed a jumper link between these two pads and those two pads, and let's see if it's still set to UHF mode. Let's hope that this doesn't have like resistors or something in there. We'll find out shortly. Okay, I hear the sound, so that's a good sign. Nice, there it is, looking good. Don't want that to touch anything. I know it's hard to see, but it definitely has a good image, and if I bump on the tuner board, it doesn't jostle anymore or get messed up. So, all right, I will just label the back to say UHF only. Pretty lame, but there we go. All right, now I want to do that heating thing I was talking about, and this is where I can't really film what I'm doing because I need to heat these capacitors here while looking at the board. So there's definitely the rollover going on there. So I'm just gonna take my soldering iron here. I'm gonna heat these up. Now hot air is another way to do it, but that's a little bit less precise. So let's see, how about this one first? No change. This one. No change. That one. When I had the iron touching it, actually altered the deflection a little bit, but it didn't fix that fold over. Okay. How about this one? Oh, okay, I don't know if you can see that. You probably can't. I should turn the lights off. And maybe if I put this here, it will block some of the light from the light there. This is my drink. So how about that? Is this a little easier to see now? I don't know if you can actually see it. Well, okay, what happened is when I touched this cap, the whole deflection got weird. See, look at that. So I know that these caps over here on this side are definitely the ones that are handling the vertical deflection, because that's where the problem is. It's folding over there on the vertical side. So about this cap. Ah, that made it worse. All right. That was this little tall cap right here. Let's heat it up some more. Yep. Look at that. See how the image is like way up high now? It's folded over much worse now. That was this little capacitor right there. Let me see what value that is. So I can see black at the bottom and the image is completely folded over. So yeah, I think that's this little cap right here. I need to find out what that is. Let's shut the power off. Let's take a look at what that little bad boy is. 22 microfarads at 6.3 volts. So I might have an SMD cap I can put there. It's this cap right here, this one. That's the one that was causing the issue. Now the negative is towards the tuner right there, and it has a little dot on the motherboard there. So I'm just gonna desolder that. I really need to get something to grab onto these caps to pull them out. Totally free at this point. There it is, came right out. Ooh, got very long leads. Long leads. All right, so this is supposed to be 22 microfarads, 6.3 volts. Let's put it in here. Well, I mean, you know, if we're getting 16.6 microfarads at 1 kilohertz, and the D value is not so bad either. So I don't know. I'm not 100% convinced that that cap is actually bad. For those who like to know what the ESR is, let's see here. It's okay, 7 ohms. That's pretty high actually. Okay, so now I got to figure out how I can get something to replace this. So if I have a tantalum, that might do the trick. Oh, but look what I just found. I found a spool of these, 22 microfarads, 16 volts. This is 22 microfarads at 6.3. And these are small, so I can actually just put that right on the back of the board here. So that's what I'm going to do. And these caps are ceramic, non-polarized, so I don't even have to worry about polarization. All right, actually the problem is that this cap is too big to fit on the back side. So I think what I'm gonna need to do is cut legs. I won't do it off this original cap. I'll cut it off this other rando cap I have sitting here. What is this value? Oh, 1 microfarad, 50 volts. I'm gonna cut the legs off of this cap. And I'm gonna attach it to this little ceramic cap so I can install it through the other side, if that makes sense. All right, so there we go. I've made this little ceramic cap with legs on it. And I'm just gonna stick that through the other side of the board here. All right, and there it is. It's pretty low profile. It's not touching anything. I mean, that should work theoretically. So let's hope that that is the cap that is causing all our problems. Look at that. Look at that. Let me cover that up. There is no more rollover. That fixed it. That completely fixed it. Nice. All right, I am happy with that result. The image looks really good on this set. Nice contrast. I mean, well, in a dark environment, it has good contrast. It looks great. Now, I think what this kind of shows is that probably a lot of these caps are shot. Let's see what brand this one was. It was YEC. And right off the bat, I see that's a YEC there. Looks like there's some Nichicons on here. So Sony kind of mixed up what they did. I'm kind of assuming though that if there are more of these caps on here, like especially of this particular one, they will probably be problematic as well. Now the thing is, some parts of the circuit won't be so critical for having, you know, a nice low ESR cap. That cap obviously was working. It actually had some capacitance to it, but it certainly had high ESR, and I think that was sort of causing the issue with this set. So yeah, hopefully this helps someone. I mean, I think there were two important things there to this, this little exercise. I tested the values with my ESR meter, and yeah, it was kind of high ESR, but this is an old device, and all the caps are kind of high ESR just because it's old. And I really don't feel like recapping this thing. I think I bought this for $5, and to me, it just looks cool on a shelf. It doesn't necessarily need to work. So I'm gonna do kind of like the bare minimum to get it working, which was figuring out which of these sort of crappy caps was the one specifically causing that issue with the deflection. And of course, the soldering iron technique is what did it. First of all, I was able to identify that for sure this was the vertical deflection section because I saw it sort of changing as I touched those caps with the iron. But when I heated that cap up, it really changed. It got worse. The problem got much worse. So bingo, that was it. And that ceramic cap in there, problem solved. So I'm gonna reassemble this thing now. All right, so it's mostly reassembled. There is the image. It's looking good. I don't have an antenna hooked up. Let me connect something up to the antenna. It's kind of hard. There we go. Clip lead. All right, so there's the image. It's looking good. There's no rollover or anything. Now, the weird thing is when I put it back together, I noticed it was a little bit dim. When I turned it on, the image was just pretty dark, and it would actually come up after a little while, but overall, it just wasn't looking super good. There's the image right there, and it's actually a little bit of Inception. I'm playing back earlier video clips I made of this set. Yeah, the RF modulator is connected to my bench computer here via an HDMI converter, and it's playing through VLC. Anyhow, like I said, I noticed when I turned it on that it was kind of dim, and there doesn't seem to be any brightness control that I could find. So I started fiddling with all the pots on here. Well, it turns out that this little board down here actually contains the brightness control. So that's the focus, and you can actually access it through this little hole in the side of the case. So that's kind of interesting. But that black pot right there, that is actually the brightness control, and it goes to one of the grids. It's actually more like the equivalent of the screen control. Now, if you're gonna be adjusting this board, you have to be very careful because there are 300 and so volts on here. Now, it's a very low current, so it's not like it's gonna hurt you badly, but you'll get a shock if you touch this board. So because I don't wanna touch it, I am going to hold it with one ceramic screwdriver, and I'm gonna turn this pot. And yeah, the weird thing is, okay, so right now that the set is sort of warmed up, the adjustment of this pot isn't that great. Like, it's at all the way at the lowest setting right now, and now it's at the highest setting, and there's not a huge difference. But when I first turn on the TV, it is a big difference. Like, let me see if I, okay, so there's the image. Let me turn the power supply off here. I think it like would have to warm up or cool down. Let's see what happens when I turn it back on. Yeah, I mean, it's really dim right now. Really, really dim. So part of me thinks that there's a problem with some more caps on this thing. More to do with the cathode control than anything else. I'm just going to turn this up all the way, because I'm not going to be using this thing a whole lot. The image is quite good right now, but it's pretty dark in the basement here. Let me turn it off and turn it back on again. Just trying to keep it from getting too much light on it. So there it is warming up. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on here. Obviously, I think that this is most likely due to the fact that there's more caps that are probably bad on here. I don't know. Or the CRT is worn out, maybe. Who knows? It just seems kind of weird because the set looks darker now than it did before I started working on it. But I mean, I used it so little. I don't know. It's nighttime right now, so I can't really give this a test in the day like I was running it earlier. So I think it's as good as it's going to get. I'm just going to put this thing back together. I had to solder wires onto it again to... Really, this set is not designed for easy use. I think this was just a really cheap little set, so they kind of skimped on all the extra features. There were other versions of this that had external controls, had video input, had DC input, stuff like that. This one is just a really crappy one. All right, so there it is. I turned on the set, and there's the darkness that I talked about. Look how dim it is. I really don't remember being like this before I started working on it. So I really feel that there's another fault with this set. Seems like after a while it does come up, the brightness comes up, but it is really, really dim at this point. So I guess that is going to be it for this repair. Repair in quotes. I broke the switch, but at least it's reliable on UHF now. It doesn't keep getting staticky, so that's a positive. And I fixed that problem where the image was rolling over or folding over by replacing that bad cap. To do any further repair on this thing, like to try to fix the brightness problem when you turn it on, or maybe even increase the brightness now that it's running, I think I'm going to need the service manual or at least the schematic for this particular set, the FD-10A. I actually found the FD-20 schematics online, which I'm looking at right now, and that's how I was able to find that that little board had that adjustment that was the brightness control. But I'm thinking the problem on this set might actually be the contrast, which is the video drive circuitry that would be causing that dimness. Although it's hard to tell. If I had the schematics, I could check for the voltages and stuff when I powered it on, and that would give me a better idea of things. But overall, the image looks pretty good. I mean, these things never look that great. They have geometry issues. But there it is. There is my video on the set. No more fold over. It looks pretty nice. It's pretty watchable. Imagine back in the day, this was your way for portable TV, and you plug in your little headphone right here so you could listen privately and watch the sports game or whatever on your little handheld CRT. So I think that's going to be it for my video on the Sony Watchman FD-10A. If you like this video, I'd appreciate a thumbs up. But if you didn't know what to do, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. It really helps me on the second channel. The subs drive the views to the channel, and that makes more people know about it. And, you know, it's sort of that whole feedback loop. Check out the main channel if you haven't already. Thanks to my patrons. Their names are scrolling up the side of the screen. It's this side, or it's maybe this side. I don't know whichever side I decide to stick it on. Probably be on this side. There's a merch store, so it's a link in the description to that. And yeah, I think that's it. Comment down below on what you think about this little Sony Watchman repair video, and the fact that it's like Inception that we're watching a video about me repairing itself on itself in the repair video where I actually shot this footage. How funny is that? Anyways, that's it. Stay healthy, stay safe. I will see you next time. Bye.